There sure is a lot coming out around this article. Yesterday I did a video. Asia Wilson named the Time Athlete of the Year, Time Magazine. Somebody did have a great question in the comments. Who reads Time these days? That's a good point. That's a hell of a point, to be quite honest with you. But it seems that Time Magazine has reverted back to its DEI award days, right?
One phone call erased a legend, and overnight, someone unexpected took the spotlight. How could decades of dominance vanish in a single moment? What hidden forces decide who stays and who goes? And why does this story matter far beyond the walls where it unfolded? The fallout will redefine expectations, shift alliances, and expose tensions that have been simmering silently for years.
That's a great honor. Congratulations to Asia. But I'm like, what is all this ruckus about? So then we dive deep into it, and it seems like there's some paragraphs from this article that put down Caitlin Clark in order to prop up Asia, which is crazy because if you guys remember, Caitlin Clark was Time's Sportsperson of the Year just last year. So I haven't actually gone into detail reading these. I wanted to live react to them with you. This video might be a little rambly, a little ranty, but let's jump right in. So these are...
Fans thought Asia Wilson was untouchable, a permanent fixture of Team USA, a lock that could never be questioned, let alone removed, and that belief is exactly why what happened next sent shockwaves through women's basketball and quietly changed the power structure of the sport overnight.
Now, Asia Wilson, she got to get this award. And somehow, some way, nothing can ever be done involving Asia Wilson without either Time Magazine or the sports media using Caitlin Clark's name to get everybody riled up because they called Caitlin Clark's fans toxic, racial, divisive, yada, yada, yada. In other words, used an article to crap on you guys. You, the Caitlin Clark.
For years, Asia Wilson moved like someone who believed her spot was guaranteed, not just earned but owed, built on Olympic medals, WNBA dominance, and the assumption that legacy alone could outrank momentum, chemistry, and the direction the game was heading.
Y'all are from the nap. As of this moment, the Pacers are up 2-1 in the finals. Has there been anything that surprised you so far in the series? Obviously, Oklahoma City was the best team in the NBA all year, but right now they're not looking like themselves.
What surprised me is just it being the Pacers in the finals.
We aligned in that, brother. I didn't see that coming.
Right.
Okay, well, are y'all fans of the W? We also have the Fever in Indiana as well. What do y'all make of Caitlin Clark's run?
So when that routine Friday morning call from USA Basketball came in, she picked up expecting logistics, schedules, or ceremonial details that come with being a veteran star. What she got instead was a reality check that flipped her entire career narrative on its head.
Of the year last year, and in that article she was asked multiple times about these narratives around Caitlin and the racial divide that happens in America and specifically around women's basketball. It has gotten so insane, and she has denounced it so many times. She said it in the Times article that she doesn't want her name to be used for these different negative and divisive things that it's used for, and the fact that Time Magazine named her Sportsperson of the Year in 2024 and then in 2025 turn around and put something like this in an article, by the way, you guys, that is supposed to prop up.
She was not being shifted to a smaller role, not being asked to mentor younger players, and not being temporarily sidelined for rest or recovery. She was removed entirely. No roster spot, no international redemption tour, no World Cup stage, just a clean, unmistakable message that Team USA had moved on. What stunned her inner circle most was not just the decision itself, but how inevitable it looked in hindsight. Asia had already planned her year around international play, turning down endorsements, adjusting training schedules, and speaking publicly like someone who assumed her name would always be called. That assumption turned out to be her biggest blind spot. Because while Asia was operating from a place of entitlement, USA Basketball was quietly operating from data, chemistry reports, media impact analysis, and a long memory. She spoke about respect for the grind, about veterans being overlooked, about narratives moving too fast. Each comment was delivered with just enough polish to avoid confrontation, but the pattern was unmistakable.
So yeah, this is not a video that I want to ever have to make. It's not the great It's not a great video, and it's just unfortunately, again, something that has to be talked about because, and by the way, this is something that I would love to kind of not bring up ever, because this is a topic that isn't basketball, and at the end of the day, I would much rather be talking about Team USA camp in a positive light. But at the end,
As Clark's profile exploded, the tone sharpened. Asia began nitpicking shooting percentages while ignoring assist totals, dismissing impact by narrowing success to selective stats, and repeatedly shifting praise away from Clark's influence toward unnamed veterans who, in her view, deserved the spotlight more. Every milestone Clark reached seemed to trigger another recalibration designed to reduce its significance. USA Basketball noticed. The breaking point did not come from a single comment or interview. It came when concerns reached a level that affected participation itself. Players quietly questioned whether international camps would become uncomfortable, whether leadership was unified, and whether internal tension would sabotage performance on the world stage. For an organization that treats chemistry as currency, that was unacceptable. While Asia's agent scrambled to understand how a two-time Olympic gold medalist could be left off a roster that included a player with no World Cup experience, the answer was already documented across 2 years of public behavior. USA Basketball did not see a misunderstood veteran.
A'ja Wilson hit the game winner with 2.2 seconds left on the clock. Her number's 22, so the stars aligned for A'ja, and she hit this shot over Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner. This play was drawn up with 5 seconds left on the clock. So the Aces had the ball. There was about 20 seconds left on the clock. They're dribbling around, nothing's happening, and Coach Becky Hammond calls a timeout with 5 seconds left on the clock. And I remember in my head thinking, this is the perfect scenario for the Aces. 5 seconds is almost the perfect amount of time to make a play happen, because if you do make...
They saw a pattern of division, a leader unable to coexist with the sport's most powerful rising force. At the same time, A'ja was absorbing the shock of removal. Another phone call was being placed, and the tone could not have been more different. Caitlin Clark was not just being named to the roster, she was being handed control. Starting point guard, offensive engine, public face of Team USA heading into the 2026 World Cup. This was not a reaction to hype. It was the conclusion of months of internal planning. USA Basketball had already built their strategy around Clark's game, her gravity, her pace control, and her ability to elevate teammates even when her own shot was not falling. Analysts inside the program had tracked how defenses warped around her, how her presence alone created space, and how her decision-making translated seamlessly to international rules. Clark was no longer just a player. She was infrastructure. Her endorsement footprint amplified that reality. With global campaigns already active, USA Basketball understood that Clark representing the country was not just competitive leverage, but cultural leverage. She carried American women's basketball into markets it had never fully penetrated before, and she did it without controversy, bitterness, or entitlement.
WNBA game in my life.
Neither have I.
I actually went to the WNBA All-Star.
I went to a game once
last year. That was dope.
Fellas, y'all gotta tap in, man. It's good hoop. It's good hoop. See, now you should get a reaction video from watching the WNBA game and being blown away by the skills, athleticism, and efficiency of WNBA basketball.
Yeah, we're gonna watch a layup. We're gonna watch
restart something.
We're gonna watch like a layup compilation.
You restart something. I want to see when they start taking off on the free.
What sealed the decision, though, was not numbers or reach. It was a response. When Clark received the news, she did not ask about hierarchy, pressure, or guarantees. She asked how she could help the team succeed. That answer alone justified everything. The contrast between the two reactions told USA Basketball everything it needed to know about leadership in this era. One player saw the team as a platform for validation. The other saw it as a responsibility. Clark's elevation signaled a philosophical shift. Team USA was no longer interested in preserving legacy for its own sake. It was interested in unity, adaptability, and global resonance. The organization chose momentum over nostalgia and cohesion over seniority. In international competition, that leeway disappears. Hand checks are called, moving screens are punished, veteran status buys nothing. A player built on physical imposition suddenly finds themselves accumulating fouls instead of points. Clark's game thrives in that environment. She does not rely on leniency or intimidation.
Asia Wilson is the GOAT of the WNBA.
Cap, Maya Moore is. And I think people will have to understand, yeah, Asia got 3 chips, but guess who got 4? Maya Moore. She did it every other year. She did it in 2011, 2013, 2015, 2017. So that was a dynasty era. And Maya Moore retired early. She did this in a short career span. That last one was, what, 2017? That's not that long ago.
Let's pop it for Asia, man. When you talk about the defensive player of the year, she has multiples of those. She has multiple MVPs. She has multiple finals MVPs.
Her effectiveness is built on spacing, timing, vision, and decision-making that remains lethal regardless of officiating standards. Even when her shot is off, defenders cannot leave her because her gravity reshapes the floor in real time. From USA Basketball's perspective, this was not just about selecting the best players. It was about selecting the right players for the global stage. Asia represented a style that required protection. Clark represented a style that required none. Asia's removal sent a message far beyond one roster. It echoed through locker rooms across the league. Brands do not want division. They want faces that grow the game, not fracture it. International leagues evaluating American talent are no longer looking only at box scores. They are evaluating public presence, leadership energy, and compatibility with team-first systems. Asia's credentials were never in question. Her approach was, Clark's continued rise, achieved without retaliating or responding to criticism, reinforced a lesson the sport is finally embracing. You cannot diminish someone who keeps delivering while maintaining composure. Eventually, the negativity reflects only on the source. International basketball has no patience for petty politics. There are championships to win and audiences to inspire. Organizations want players who amplify the mission, not their own insecurities.
But at the end of the day, this is something that I feel like the reason why I feel like I have to talk about this is because of when this happened a year ago, the way certain prominent media members reacted. These are media members that are being pushed by the league. These are media members that no matter what would be given credentials by the league. The way they blamed Caitlin Clark for the situation, they somehow used this as some sort of gotcha against Caitlin Clark, just because they didn't even have the common decency to treat Caitlin Clark.
Asia Wilson believed her legacy insulated her from accountability. Team USA disagreed. The decision to remove her while handing Caitlin Clark the keys was not cruel, reactionary, or disrespectful. It was strategic. It reflected where women's basketball is headed, not where it has been. The future belongs to players who understand that elevating the game elevates everyone. Clark embodies that reality. That direction is now unmistakable, and it is reshaping how power, influence, and credibility are earned in women's basketball. Team USA's decision did not simply redraw a roster. It reset expectations for what leadership looks like in an era where the sport is expanding faster than ever before. For decades, longevity and past dominance were treated as shields, protecting veterans from scrutiny even as the game evolved around them. That era quietly ended the moment Asia Wilson's name was left off the list. What made the decision resonate was how deliberately it was framed. USA Basketball never launched a public takedown, never issued a dramatic press release, and never invited debate about loyalty versus legacy. They simply acted.
Asia Wilson won Time Athlete of the Year, and in the article, it gets a little messy, man. We're about to get all the way into it, but before we do that, y'all make sure y'all hit the like and hype for your boy. If you like the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 35.7, so if you can help me out with that, I highly appreciate it. And don't forget to get in the comment section and let me know what y'all think about this one. Let's get it. All right, so like I stated, man, Asia Wilson won Time Athlete of the Year, and in this article, man, she brings up Caitlin Clark.
In elite organizations, silence paired with action is often the loudest message of all. Internally, the rationale was clear. The program no longer wanted leaders who measured relevance by comparison or clung to status through opposition. It wanted leaders who could carry the sport forward without needing to diminish anyone else in the process. Caitlin Clark fit that vision almost too perfectly. Her rise has never been fueled by entitlement or resentment. She did not demand attention. It followed her because of the way she plays, the way defenses panic when she crosses half court, and the way teammates instinctively trust her decision-making. More importantly, she understands that attention is not a finite resource. The spotlight does not need to be guarded like territory. When she pushes the tempo, it is not about showcasing herself, but about forcing defenses into chaos so her teammates can thrive. Even when her shot is not falling, the floor bends around her presence, creating opportunities that do not show up in traditional box scores, but decide games nonetheless. A'ja Wilson's leadership, by contrast, became increasingly inward-facing. Instead of adapting to the changing dynamics of the league, she framed progress as displacement. Instead of embracing the influx of new fans and global attention, she questioned its legitimacy. That posture might resonate in moments of frustration, but it collapses under the weight of long-term vision.
Broke down. DeWanna Bonner was working her way back to try to guard A'ja, but Alyssa Thomas was already there, so DeWanna Bonner kind of stopped. But Alyssa Thomas has much less of a wingspan than DB does, so it was actually slightly easier shot to hit over Alyssa Thomas. But as you can see there, I don't know if it was a miscommunication. She was just going to help out, but A'ja hit such a tough shot. And actually in a time where A'ja had an incredible first 3 quarters of the game, and she was a little bit quiet in the fourth, but she stepped up when...
USA Basketball is not interested in managing resentment. It is interested in winning gold while expanding the sport's footprint. Those goals require leaders who see growth as additive rather than threatening. Clark represents that philosophy in both action and attitude. There is also an unavoidable generational shift happening beneath the surface. Younger players entering the league grew up watching the game differently. They are fluent in spacing, pace, and skill-based dominance rather than purely physical assertion. They value collaboration, visibility, and adaptability. For them, Clark is not an anomaly. She is a blueprint. By elevating her to the most prominent role on the national team, USA Basketball validated that blueprint. It told the next wave of players exactly what traits will be rewarded. For A'ja herself, the moment represents a crossroads. She can continue framing the decision as betrayal, misunderstanding, or bias, or she can confront the reality that her approach alienated the very institution she believed would always protect her. International basketball did not reject her talent, it rejected the energy she brought with it. The irony is that A'ja still has the tools to reinvent her narrative. Dominance does not disappear overnight.
It's just bound to happen, man. And I wouldn't necessarily say it was her who brought up Caitlin Clark. Maybe it was Time Magazine's questions that brought up Caitlin Clark. But nonetheless, there's a Caitlin Clark piece in this article that has the internet buzzing right now. Have the internet going crazy. So let's go ahead and get into what was said here. It says her rocket ship run comes at an opportune time. In 2024, Caitlin Clark's rookie season helped the WNBA hit milestone TV and attendance.
But reinvention requires humility, and humility has never been optional at this level. The players who endure are the ones who evolve. Clark's story, meanwhile, is still being written. Her appointment as starting point guard is not a coronation. It is an assignment. The pressure will be immense. Expectations will be relentless. Every possession will be scrutinized. That is the cost of becoming the face of something bigger than yourself. Yet everything about Clark's trajectory suggests she understands that weight. A'ja, at least in its most dominant form, does not. That reality does not diminish Asia's accomplishments. It contextualizes them. And context matters when building a team meant to dominate globally, not just domestically. The future of women's basketball will not be decided by who arrived first or who collected the most accolades under one system. It will be decided by who can thrive as the system expands, diversifies, and globalizes. Team USA made it clear which direction it is betting on. This was not about choosing one player over another. It was about choosing an identity rooted in growth rather than grievance, in opportunity rather than obstruction, in leadership that elevates rather than competes for oxygen. A'ja Wilson believed her place was permanent. Caitlin Clark earned hers by never assuming anything was. That difference defines this moment, and it explains why one player is preparing to lead on the world stage while the other is left watching the sport move forward without her.